Markers and Milestone, where my co-host Amanda Kleist and myself, Lee Bortons, explore opportunities beyond traditional college, all from a Christ-centered perspective. Today is Monday, May 22nd, 2023, and our guest is Kimberly Brubacher, a good friend of Amanda. And I know Amanda's going to lead the interview. It's so nice to meet you, Kimberly.
Good to meet you too.
So Kimberly, I'm using your full name, and is that how you prefer?
Yes, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Okay. So Kimberly, you and I met a long time ago when you were littler and I was younger. But really what I want to talk to you today about and have you talk to us about is your journey from being a homeschool student in high school to going directly into what you were enjoying and professionally dancing. And how did that work for you?
Yeah, so I was homeschooled all the way through, and my ballet training was very intense. So I would say it did work well with my schedule. And I did do what was once called Torrey Academy, and that was very foundational for me. Just going out into the ballet world after high school, being fully immersed into that career. So I do look back on my homeschool years and I'm very grateful for the education that I did have.
So Kimberly, tell me, how does one go from high school to the ballet world? And actually, before you tell me that, describe for somebody who isn't into ballet, how one gets started to this level.
Yeah, so I started when I was very young. So I was 6 years old. And pretty much from then on, had intensive training. So in high school, I went to summer intensives, which is where you spend about, I would say, 5 weeks in a city and intensive training for that period of time. You get a lot of exposure to other teachers, directors in the ballet world, and yeah, just a lot of just exposure to other dancers as well. So that was key for me and preparing me for when I was to go professionally. Yeah, so it's a very fully immersive experience, body and mind. And so yeah, I think it developed a lot of discipline in me, and learning how to take care of my body and yeah, just a lot of life skills I learned through that, whether I was to go professional or not. But it was a very yeah, formative time to pursue it throughout my whole childhood.
So you went to summer intensives during your high school years. What cities
Correct.
were you in?
Yeah, so I was in, let's see, DC, San Francisco, Seattle, Austin, Texas. Yeah, I think those were the ones I went to. So yeah.
So that's what you did during high school. And then you had a conversation with your parents that said, done with high school and I'm going to, what did that conversation look like and what were the options on the table?
Yeah, so ultimately, I think what helped me in my decision process was college will always be there, but I can only dance for so long. And when I was, I would say probably a sophomore in high school, yeah, I was told that, if I really set my mind to it, I could make it professionally. So that was a little boost that I did need, because it's, that career is not for everyone. You can have the passion, but it has to do with, the physicality, all that stuff. So yeah, so that was kind of a encouragement that I needed. That was, yeah, kind of helped me to make that decision. It definitely was a walk of faith though, because everything is it can be very uncertain in the ballet world. So the guarantees of getting a contract with the company can be a very last minute thing that comes into play. So it's more of you put yourself out there and you see what hatches. So so I decided to take that leap of faith and just see if I was going to get a contract with the company. My parents were very supportive, and yeah, so they kind of were coming alongside me and let's see what happens. Let's see what doors open, and a door did open. So decided to take that opportunity.
So the first professional company you were with was what, and where was it?
Yeah, so it was Valley Austin. It was in Texas. And that was basically like an internship. So the stepping stone to the professional world. So I was there for 2 years. It was a training program. And that was full scholarship. So we had 15 of us dancers taking that step from pre-professional to professional. So yeah, that was, yeah. Mhm.
So, Kimberly, I know you from church, so let's be fully transparent about that. Most of my interest is not only the direct to dancing, but how did your faith inform? Because I'm guessing that Ballet Austin wouldn't say it's a Christian company.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So how did you handle the faith and being in the church while doing this profession that doesn't have a strong Christian ethos?
That's a great question. Yeah, I would say, yeah, the first year away from home was very much of a, is this my own faith or is it just my parents? Even just to go to church was something that I had to make my own decision with that. And so, yeah, plugging into church, it took time. I think there's a difference between, just attending on a Sunday morning and then actually seeking to invest yourself in the community. So I would say that first year was more of a, I'm just going to show up, and I hadn't tasted the beauty of, being a part of the local church in that close-knit way. Yeah, so the Lord, I mean, he definitely has grown me over the years. And so I would say it was after I would say the company after Valley Austin was where I immersed myself in a local church in a way that I was being poured into and pouring out, and really saw the beauty of being part of the body of Christ. Yeah, so yeah, I look back and see the God's grace and faithfulness to have taken me through some pretty hard seasons, but he's ultimately grown me through it. And yeah, there was a lot that happened, but yeah, he's grown me through it, and I've made my faith my own through what I went through. So
Do you have a kind of question? Do you have advice? I know some young women that are 18ish going on into the arts. I know Ballerina, in fact. Advice for them to help protect their faith. What are they going to like help them have their eyes wide open? What did you encounter?
yeah. Yeah, I think that, the ballet art form and just the arts in general can be a beautiful art form. But there can definitely be times when you're performing something or creating art that just seems so empty and meaningless. And it's like, okay, how am I glorifying you, Lord, through this? This is my craft. And so, yeah, seeking to be a light in that industry, it does, yeah, it takes a lot of prayer and making sure you're surrounding yourself with believers, whether that's in the company, which can be rare at times if it's a secular company, or just within the local church. So I would say my church community was very foundational to come alongside me. And yeah, because it's, you come into a company, especially if you're brand new and you're trying to fit in, you're trying to prove yourself, it can be very competitive. And so, yeah, there can be a little, just navigating, okay, what does it look like to be a light in this environment and to, build those relationships, but also not to be easily swayed into what other people are doing that kind of can go against what, your morals or whatever. So I would say the local church was really key in that. And just having people always be praying for me. Yeah. And I think as well, and this wasn't something that automatically I had this certain mindset, but over time realizing that, the career path I was in, that company I was in, that was like my mission field. So being mission minded as I went into my workplace. And I think that could apply, whatever career path you're in, whether it's, you're a 9 to 5 engineer job, but looking at the people you're around and thinking, okay, I'm here because the Lord specifically placed me in this specific work environment. Yeah, I remember a pastor telling me once that, this specific company that I was in, he was like, that's an unreached people group, if you think of it that way. I'm like, wow, I never thought of it in that sense, but it's like, yeah, God specifically planted me in that company to be a light. So that was, I would say, a key mindset for me. Yeah.
That's really great to hear that you had folks that were paying attention, who could,
Hmm.
guide you, and that you were asking and listening.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, Kimberly, what was the worst piece of advice a peer gave to you during this time period?
Oh boy, that's a hard question. Let me think. Um, hmm. Hmm. I mean, I can't think of something like specifically or a person specifically, but I think what the world can tell me is, ultimately your worth is all in the eyes of the director or whoever you're trying to please in the audience. And so that's something I definitely battle with trying not to get so caught up in winning the approval of someone that was watching me dance. Because I think I can be very performance oriented. And so even now I have to remind myself, I'm not here to perform. But yeah, just remembering that my value and worth as an artist was not in how well I executed something or how pleased someone was with my dancing, but ultimately my identity was in, Christ. And so that's probably, the worst advice that the world can give is that, yeah, all your worth is in your performance. So yeah.
And within the dance company, were you able to find kindred spirits in your faith, or were you pretty much alone?
Hmm. Yeah, I love that word, kindred spirits, that phrase. Yeah, I would say definitely when I was with the Alabama Ballet, yeah, I have friends to this day that were yeah, they're so dear to me. So yeah, the Lord brought those people in, and that was sweet to see where like before I joined that company, my friend there, she had been praying that the Lord would bring more believers in. And so just seeing the way he's answered prayers has been awesome through that.
And were many of them direct from high school into the ballet, or were some of them going through college that were supported by?
Yeah, I would say some, I know some who have gone through college, but some who just kind of went right through. And the dancers that went through college, they got a degree specifically in dance. So yeah, or got a minor in something else. So I would say there is, yeah, a variety in that. Mhm.
I'm just wondering if the people who were kindred spirits, if you saw sort of a theme through that they were actually bypass college, or college was helpful in that regard. And it might be you haven't met enough of them to know.
Yeah. The kindred spirits I'm thinking of, they did not do the college route, but yeah, I think regardless, you can really, because I do know some colleges specifically that, or universities that have solid ballet programs. Yeah. So, but yeah, whatever path you do choose, I can see where, yeah, God is faithful to keep, growing us spiritually, and we've grown through those hard seasons. So,
Are there some Christian colleges with solid ballet programs that you met people from that you would recommend?
hmm. Um, honestly, I can't think of any.
That's
Um,
fine.
yeah, and I think, yeah, I'm thinking of some, but they're not Christian, but they have really solid, yeah, ballet programs. So, yeah.
Thanks for answering my questions.
Hmm.
So, Kimberly, you were with what, 3 companies in your career so far?
Yeah, my professional career, yes, 3.
Okay.
Hmm.
So we got Austin and we got Alabama is the third one, Connecticut, I'm guessing because of something in your background.
Yes, yeah, Ballet, yes, that's right. Yeah, Ballet Hartford. And actually, yeah, there's a fourth one, sorry. The one I'm with right now in California.
So you also have another passion that you've spent time refining in yourself. Can you tell me about what you are headed towards and why you chose where you're coming from? And this is not ballet specific. This is your growth specific.
Yeah. Yeah, so I teach Pilates. I don't know if you're talking about that specifically, but that's one thing that I really love doing. Pilates has been cross training for me as a dancer for many years, and so I came to a point where yeah, just thinking, I can't dance, you know, well, we can't dance forever, but there's only a certain point where I'll have to retire, and so what am I going to do that's going to yeah, be that career that does it that pays well, and that is something I do enjoy, and I'm able to use my skill sets in that. And so yeah, looked into Pilates. I got certified, and I've truly enjoyed that, and being able to help people and taking care of their bodies, and use my knowledge about the body to help them has been yeah, a very rewarding career. So that's something that I see going into doing long term. And yeah, keep building those, and I would love to have my private practice one day. So that's yeah, what I enjoy doing. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I asked you that is some of these things that we do in the beginning of our careers, we do end up changing. And you have already figured out somewhat your trajectory to the next act when you aren't dancing at the level that is your professional dance level. So I wanted to appreciate that and have you say that out loud, because I like the foreplanning of the different milestones you're hitting, and that you're looking forward to a milestone when, yeah, maybe I'm not able to dance at the level I love right now. So I appreciate that.
What are
So
some other routes that dancers choose in that situation?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of variety. So I know some dancers where they dance professionally and they decide, I'm gonna get a degree and go into be a nurse or an engineer, like totally different vocation. So, and that's the beauty of college, is like it's always there. Like if you want to get a degree, you can pursue that. And so there's some also that they're dancing professionally and decide on the side they're gonna pursue that degree as well. Yeah, because it's such an uncertain career, so it's like it's good to have a backup. Yeah, some yeah, go into teaching ballet. But I would say like Pilates is a big one too, of just yeah, it's very, fitness oriented, and you're helping people. It's like physical therapy. So there's a wide range, I would say.
Yeah, so I'm surprised you're not mentioning like shows, like Broadway shows or things that are dance intensive but not as difficult on your body as ballet.
Yeah, I do know some dancers that go more of that Broadway route. But even that, I would say it's still in that industry. So I would say like there's still like yeah, that's still hard. Yeah, but I know people that totally enjoy that, and then just doing, different yeah, doing different avenues within that whole industry. So yeah, everything is for a season, which is yeah, comforting to say.
So Kimberly, one of the things that most of us haven't done very often in our life is find a church, and especially when we're young. How did you find the churches that you attended?
Yeah, I would say all of them were through connections. So for instance, when I moved out to Birmingham, Alabama, I reached out to my youth pastor in high school because he was from there. And yeah, so he was able to recommend for me, which I love that, because, you see the Lord he's always working and just the connection. So being able to think of, oh, this person was from here, so let me reach out to him. And then I became a member of the church out in Birmingham. So when I moved to Connecticut, I, yeah, one of the elders like gave me recommendations. So they were all, yeah, pretty much through recommendations. Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing is that because you had relationships in the church when you were in high school, when you had questions, you went to the people that you had relationship with in the church during high school and asked them questions as you moved to your next milestone or marker in your life. So interesting. One of the questions I have is, I heard a rumor that you're studying some theology. Can you tell me if that's true and why you'd be studying more theology than just going to church?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking to get a certificate in theology. Yeah, beginning in the fall. And I've been working in formal ministry for the past 2 years at my church in student ministry. And yeah, I've truly enjoyed it. I love just how relational the job is. But I've as I've been in the job, I've been wanting to learn more about, church history, all these things that a lot of the people that I work with who are in either Talibot or, they just have this like solid knowledge about those things. And so yeah, I can have my own convictions, but also wanting to learn more. There's so much more to learn about the Word of God. So so that's something where starting this fall, I'm gonna kind of shift where my priorities are. So now I'm gonna focus more on theology, Pilates, dancing. And I think too that, even if I don't go into vocational ministry in the future, when you learn more about the Word of God, that's going to inform everything else. So it's not to waste. So yes, that is something I'm looking forward to pursuing. Yeah.
So I have another question. When you were making the decision to go to a professional ballet company, with your dancing experience as a young woman, were there other kind of companies you could have applied to or did apply to, or did you only work on ballet companies?
Yeah, I was pretty much set on the ballet companies. And so the two companies I was interested in, I had to do their summer intensive beforehand, which even that like was so uncertain. So it's not until the end of the summer that okay, I have a spot with this company in their pre-professional program. So I did both of the summer intensives, and the first one was the Ballet Austin one. And I remember by the end, I felt pretty certain that's where I wanted to be. And even just as I was on the plane, I had this piece of, okay, I think this is where the Lord wants me to be. But I'm gonna go to this other summer intensive, check it out and see how it was. And then when I was at the second one, that's when I got an offer from the first one and decided to just go with that first offer. So it was pretty uncertain, but I was pretty set on, okay, I think this is what I want to, where I want to invest my time in the next 2 years. But ballet was definitely the thing that I was focused on. Yeah.
So were these things where you just applied for the intensives, or were you well enough known that they requested you to come try out? Like, what's that process?
Yeah, it's all applications, so or auditions. So they typically just kind of tour the US, and then you go to a local audition, you have the number, all that stuff, and you see if you get accepted. So there's, depending on the size, but there could be either a small group or pretty large. So and like I said, it's very competitive. So there's a whole bunch of dancers wanting this opportunity to, get connected to a company through their school. So
Is there some sort of website or a place where people can go and find out where these auditions are going to be and what companies are going to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, so when I was in high school, it was more of like you do your own research and try to find, whatever information you can. I know there was a page that I think was for like dance moms. So their research. Yeah, but I actually have a friend who realized, there's so much information, but like, can we just put in one spot? So my friend actually started a company called Ballet Scout, a business. And so what they do is they do the work for you of gathering all the information and bring it all to one page. So that's a little shout out for them. It's called Ballet Scout. So yeah.
Thank you.
hmm
So, as a mom who did not have a daughter who danced ballet,
hmm
but if I did have a daughter who danced ballet, I wouldn't know how to pick a ballet studio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So there, I would say the companies or the studios I was with, um, what is attractive about those was they weren't competition based. And I mean, there's great ballet studios that are competition based, but my mom specifically liked the fact that they weren't focused on that, which I do appreciate because I think sometimes it could get all about the medals. But I think, yeah, if you want to, well, ballet is such a foundation. So if you want to have good technique, and are serious about ballet, make sure it is a ballet school and not just a dance school, because yeah, the ballet school is going to be that solid training. Yeah, there's a lot of competition studios that do more of the lyrical contemporary stuff, jazz, all that stuff. But they lack the ballet foundation. So I think it's really important that, yeah, if you want to go the dance route, to, yeah, plug into a ballet specifically studio. And even within that ballet studio, you're going to be exposed to different styles, but ballet is a base. So because I mean, just teaching at different studios, I've noticed a difference between those that are competition, contemporary based, and then ballet based. There's a difference in technique. So yeah.
One of
Mhm.
the encouraging things that brings to mind is I just heard you say your mom picked one when you were younger that weren't competition based, that were but
Mhm.
were good foundations in
Mhm.
ballet. And that
Mhm.
later on you succeeded in the competitions because obviously you got
Mhm.
those contracts, right?
Mhm.
So I really appreciate hearing that as a mom because I think sometimes we're kind of worried that if we don't go the higher intensity competition
Mhm.
route, our
Mhm.
children won't get to where you got to. So I really
Mhm.
appreciate you emphasizing that part of what your mom did. What
Mhm.
can you give me two things your mom told you about academics or your father that helped
Mhm.
you make a good decision about continuing to study even theology now?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, both my parents come from very high education, so I'm very grateful that they even allowed me to pursue ballet. But yeah, I do appreciate that my mom, she didn't have me compromise on my schooling. So she made sure, like, you can pursue this ballet at a high intensity, but I want to make sure that you're not gonna, skimp out on classes. So yeah, so I did tour academy, which was very yeah, helped me to think well. And all the great books, education, yeah, and even just having to do all the requirements for math, all that stuff. I've always been more on the writer side, but did more of the what was required even with math. So she had definitely had the high standards, which I appreciate now. um yeah, so they made sure that I was, yeah, not just all focused on ballet, but um yeah, getting that solid high school education. So
Amanda, I need to take off. It was so good to meet you, Kimberly. I
good
have
to meet
another meeting,
you.
but Amanda has some more great questions for you and and to inform our audience. So thank you, Amanda. Bye.
Thanks so much,
Bye, good
Lee.
to meet
Thanks for
you.
joining us.
Mhm.
So, Kimberly, I appreciate what you just said about your parents. I guess what are two things you would tell young men? I know you're a young woman in ballet. It strikes me as that Christian men in ballet are probably a little more complicated relationships than Christian women in ballet. Maybe that's a misapprehension.
Mhm.
Help me see how, if you were talking to a young man in the church interested in ballet, what would you be saying to him about pursuing it?
Hmm. Hmm. Let's see. Hmm. I mean, I think, yeah, the same thing that has helped me, has, I think, it applies to a guy as well in the same career, with just plugging into a local church, all that stuff. Yeah, I think, I mean, ballet, you need strong men to lift girls up. So it's not like this all tutus and tiaras career. It's like, it's it can be very masculine, it can be very feminine. So, I think, just seeking to,
The
mhm,
local church again, getting plugged in and committed in
mhm,
your local church is
mhm.
same for both.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to just life, is it's about I mean, we're being sanctified, we're becoming more like Christ. And so regardless of what you do, our sole aim is to glorify God and to seek to follow him, and to become more like him. And so that can be beautifully articulated in whatever we're doing with our craft. And so if you're a guy doing ballet, that's great, and you love the Lord, then you can be a light in that environment. And so so I think ultimately keeping our eyes on Jesus, whatever career path we take, and the Lord can use us in specific ways. Because I think even in the I've met solid guys who love the Lord, who are in the dance industry, and it is beautiful to see how they seek to use this gift that God's given them, because they're incredible movers and artists, and using it in a way that is solely glorifying to the Lord. So so that's encouraging to see. It's God can use both men and women in that industry. So
That's beautiful. And I really appreciate you sharing that. I guess one of the other questions I have is, okay, so you were 18 something and making decisions, and then you were what, 23 something and making
mhm,
decisions?
mhm.
What, if any, are the questions you asked yourself that were the same and or different at each stage?
Hmm. Yeah. I think, I think growing up, or even just approaching my graduating high school, I did always have this awareness of, the world I'm gonna get into is a very dark world. And so I if I get in the wrong crowd or whatever, I could actually, fall away from my faith. Just having awareness of, like, it's a dark world I'm getting into. So praying, like, Lord, I hope that doesn't happen to me. So, like, so having this awareness of, like, what I'm getting myself into. Um, I mean, can see in the past where my first year away from home definitely swayed a bit. But and it is interesting to see how, when you surround yourself with um just not the best examples, it's easily swayed. And so, and it's something you don't always notice, in the moment. So that's where I see God's grace for sure. um but I think just, the more you're, I think, surrounded by darkness, the more you crave the light as well, and desire to cling to the light. um and so I guess kind of check-ins of, how is my time in the word, who am I surrounding myself with, um have been things that I think I've kind of checked in and asked myself. Yeah, if that answers your question there.
It
Having that
does.
awareness.
So I've heard you say, get into a local church. And then I just heard you say, checking in with yourself about how is your time in the word on a regular basis. And I think I've also just heard you say, making sure you have some accountability about those things in terms of what you're thinking about, and being aware that when you head into darkness, you need to feed yourself with light. So I think I've heard
Mhm.
all three of those things said. So did you have a favorite way of staying in the word when you
Mhm.
were in your companies or in your intensives?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say um my schedule at the time really allowed for that morning to have that quiet time. yeah, and so having that daily discipline where yeah, his word became my delight and my daily bread. And so yeah, making sure I was carving that time was very key. Um yeah, and knowing that, I'm gonna go into this workplace where I am um yeah, on mission field. Or just, in a very high intensity environment where you're trying to um yeah, in a sense prove yourself to the director. That's hard.
Mhm.
And so just equipping myself in the morning of, I need this his word to go before me into my day was very much of like a I need this, so I'm gonna make this time. So
Nice.
yeah. Hmm.
So Lee asked the Christian colleges question. My question for you is, do you know of ballet Christian dance companies that you would say, hey, they're doing work that's glorifying to God and a Christian might enjoy being involved in that?
Hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I can think of just a few. Because I've been in the secular ballet world, um, I feel like my knowledge of the Christian ballet world is not as yeah, I don't know too much, but I
Sure.
know dancers who have been in those. And so I'm thinking of one in Chicago. It's called Ballet 58. They do a lot of excellent work because I think, yeah, excellence in the ballet world is very it should be upheld, especially in the Christian arts as well.
Mhm.
Because I think if you take your craft seriously, people will take you seriously. So yeah, I've noticed they create very excellent work. Um, and let's see, there's Zion Dance Project. I've done a few projects with them. They're in Dallas. They're more contemporary, but they do a lot of beautiful stuff. Um, and then there's one called, I think it's called Enoch, I think, but it's in I'm gonna say Nashville, but I might be wrong.
Mhm.
But I think they're a newer company. They're a little more contemporary, but those are what come to mind. Yeah, as of now.
Beautiful. Well, since one of the things we're really passionate about on this podcast is a Christ-centered worldview, I thought I'd just at least ask the question. And I appreciate your emphasis on excellence. Um,
Mhm.
it is when something's beautiful, it's beautiful to God. And when it's done with a Christ-centered worldview, that should help us excel still more in that beauty. Yes,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
beautiful. So
Mhm.
here's a final question, actually, final two questions.
Mhm.
Um, what is one thing you wish you told yourself at 18 or leaving high school that that you would say now? I wish I'd said to myself, fill in whatever that blank is.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think I spent a big portion of my career just putting the opinions of, whoever was the director or in charge. Yeah, just a big hold. And so a lot of my dancing, I feel like I was dancing in fear.
Okay.
And just trying to prove myself. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, been through a lot of healing and growth. And now dancing with a lot of freedom and just, I don't really care what people think in the audience, this yeah. So yeah, I would say something to the effect of yeah, it's not worth it to, you know, be doing our dancing just for the approval of man. It's going to drain you. And that's not true freedom. And um ultimately there's, we can walk and dance in this confidence of, this is a gift that he's given to me. I don't have to prove myself. And I know that he's placed me in this company. And so I can pursue excellence and then, pretty much, leave my craft at the altar of this is what I'm gonna perform. And um yeah, and so to dance in that confidence that's rooted in Christ. Um yeah, yeah, so something like that. And also, yeah, the Lord's he's gonna carry you through. So like no matter what hard things, like he's so faithful, and I can see him walking with me or dancing with me all the way through. So yeah, and he's used every season for good as well. Yeah.
And you're in transition again, starting something new in the fall. What's one
Mhm.
thing you want to keep telling yourself as you start this new season in the fall?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, hmm. Yeah, I think that I don't dance full time anymore, so I freelance and but yeah, one thing I know that God has created me to be a mover. So I love just love expressing myself through dancing. And so as I yeah, transition into other things and learn more about his word and get into that formal learning of theology, yeah, to remind myself that I am a dancer, and so I love even just being able to express myself through dance. So whether that's through improv and communicating yeah, his truths through movement, I find is very powerful. And so wanting to carry that through. Um yeah, so um yeah, I think yeah, as I'm growing in my knowledge, to let that show through in the way that he's created me through dancing. So yeah. And that's something I'm going to be learning. So
Right.
how that
So
plays
I
out.
hear
But
you saying you are a mover, and showing God through movement is part of who he made you to be. And you're looking forward to seeing how he meets you in this season of studying theology in
mhm,
expressing that still more, even as
mhm,
you're not in full-time dance mode.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm,
Nice. All
mhm,
right. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for spending time with us. If somebody
mhm,
wanted to see some of your work, is there any place that you keep some of your work showing that you want to share with us?
mm.
Or is that just not something you've done?
Yeah, I don't have a specific place where it's all out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I have an Instagram.
Okay, tell us
um
your Instagram if people want to
yeah,
look at that.
okay. It's Kimberly Cowdy. So that's my middle name, Cowdy. It's Japanese. So Kimberly, but it's instead of ER, it's AHLY and then KAORI. If
Okay.
they can't find that, it's okay. But and then Ballet Project OC is a company that I perform with. So sometimes I'm featured on there. Yeah, so but yeah, sometimes on my personal page I'll show a little dancing clip, but yeah, I don't have one place where I'm just showing all my
No
performance
problem.
stuff. So yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much, Kimberly, for being here today on Markers and Milestones, where we are trying to free people up to think differently than straight to college. That
Mm,
doesn't mean we don't have colleges on here, but choices that we all have after high school. And thank you for
mhm,
showing us such a beautiful one. And even the
mm,
more beauty of the hunger to keep exploring your world, even by pursuing theology in the next stage and Pilates in the
mhm,
next stage as you move through
mhm,
where the Lord's guiding you. Thank you so much for
mhm,
spending time. If
mhm.
you're joining us next week, we will actually have a college on, and we will be talking about, if it goes to plan, we'll be talking about John Brown College. So if it goes to plan, that's what will be happening next week. If it doesn't go to plan, we'll just see who shows up next week. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for spending your time. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Amanda. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.